We are on the other side. This is actually the exit, and this is where we expect that the convoy that will be transporting Nandipha Magudumana along with the other 3 accused will be exiting this magistrate's court premises here in Bloemfontein. Of course, we now know that their father has been granted a 10,000 rand bail. As soon as he pays that, he will be free for now, and he's been instructed as per the court order to confine himself to the Port Alfred, if I got that correctly, magisterial area, and and I'm told that he obviously has to be far away from the witnesses. He doesn't have to directly or indirectly call any of the witnesses, with the magistrates there saying that should he violate any of those conditions, including him not being permitted to leave that magisterial district or area without the permission of the investigating officer, should he violate any of those, a warrant of arrest will be issued against him. He will be rearrested, and his bail application or bail might be revoked. We expect Dr. Magudumana to be transported from here directly to the Bizamaketa Correctional Services, that is in 200 kilometers away from here, because we definitely know that the authorities seemingly do not trust the Mangaung Correctional Services Center, where the partner, the main man, the main factor in this whole drama, Thabo Bester, escaped from last year in May. And at this point in time, I am just seeing the convoy possibly waiting for the accused to step out of the holding cells there to be transported. The 3 will have to remain in custody until their next appearance, Marcelo. As you might have heard, on the 3rd and the 4th, the 2 days have been set aside for their appearance in court for possible bail application. It would be interesting to see whether Dr. Nandipha Magudumana will also apply for bail, more so because the state has already said that it is going to oppose their bail application. The odds seem to be stacked against her in the main, primarily because she already seemed to be a flight risk. The fact that she was arrested in Tanzania on their way to Kenya along with Thabo Bester, that already is not going to help her cause. The government has had to spend a lot of money chartering a private jet, very luxurious jet, the Falcon 900B, which ordinarily tends to transport executive business people, people with money, and even heads of state. So that plane had to leave Johannesburg and fly to Tanzania to fetch her. So the state will certainly not want such a scenario to repeat itself.
And Moloko, you were the one who was tasked in the team in terms of trying to follow the convoy that took Dr. Nandipha Magudumana from the prison she is being held in Kroonstad in the Free State to the court there in Bloemfontein. How was that this morning? Just recount what you saw this morning as she left that prison to get to court.
Very true. Well, we first made a turn to Kroonstad, to that specific facility yesterday, and we managed to get in, of course, not necessarily inside the premises itself. We drove around, and I must say the security there seemed to be top-notch. Should anyone really try to escape, they will have first to pass through 2 electric fences. So it would not be easy for anyone if they were to escape from custody. And just as we were driving around using what seemed to us to be a public road leading to some of the residences there, where I presume the officials from the correctional services stay, the immediately within 5 minutes, they were already following us and wanting to know what we wanted there and instructing us to leave, to be outside. That for me, that apprehension indicated that they really did not want to leave anything to chance. And this morning when we arrived there as well, hoping that we can get a glimpse of her being transported from the facility towards Bloemfontein, the security had been heightened up. We saw yesterday it was just two gentlemen who were following us, and they also manned that gate, making sure that we don't make our way back there. Of course, we wouldn't do that since they had told that we were in an area we were not welcomed. Now, this morning they had increased the numbers, about 8 of them, some of them holding automatic rifles, standing right there, making sure that no unauthorized person or no unauthorized vehicle makes its way there. But of course, they beat us because we did not manage to get a glimpse of Dr. Magudumana as she was leaving. I'm not too sure whether they managed to transport her overnight or it was very early this morning before we arrived, or whether they utilized a different exit point. We're not sure there. But as we were there, somebody then that we spoke to say, is she still inside? That gentleman who works there said, no, she's out already. And it was not surprising, therefore, that about 40 minutes or 30 minutes later, she appeared here in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. So it's a 2 and 20 minutes drive from Kroonstad to Bloemfontein. So surely they were very meticulous there. But we're hoping that as I'm seeing this one police van I thought it was going to come our way. Clearly not. We are hoping anytime from now the convoy may make its way out. Of course, we will not be able to see her inside any of this vehicle. Luckily for South Africans, at least, she was made to take off her mask and also so that she can identify herself, because the court wasn't comfortable with the fact that they could not see her as she's hiding herself there. Yeah. They suspected that, look, we may be having a wrong person here. So she was unmasked, and at least South Africans have managed to see her for the first time clearly since she returned from Tanzania, where she was captured along with Thabo Bester.
And I mean, that's a very fitting suspicion, isn't it, Moloko, to try and make sure that indeed it is Nandipha Magudumana in the dock. South Africans saw what happened in the last 10 months, so quite a fitting suspicion to think that it might be someone else behind the mask. But let's go to Slindelo Masigane, who is on the other side of the court to where Moloto is. Sli, what's happening on your side?
Well, we are monitoring the other entrance. What Tebogo Masilo and I noticed was that the cars or the vehicles that are transporting Dr. Nandipha are facing in his direction. So we quickly just ran back around to the front of the courthouse. I'm going to ask Tebogo Masilo to just move with me. Dr. Nandipha's family is outside the courthouse, but I have noticed the Free State NPA spokesperson, Mr. Shuping. Thank you so much for your time. You are live on eNCA. The state not opposing bail in the matter of Zolile Sekeleni. Why?
Well, there are exceptional circumstances in a case which we took into consideration, and we decided as state we are not going to oppose his release on bail. But the request that we made is that there must be conditions attached to that release on bail. And what we're hoping is that he's going to abide by all the conditions that are attached to his release on bail.
You're not concerned that he might try to flee the country like his daughter?
At the moment, we are not. There is no reason for us to believe that is going to happen. Hence, we have taken a decision that we are not going to oppose his release on bail.
Has anybody decided to turn state witness at this point?
Well, the investigation is ongoing. I'm not even sure who's the state witnesses, but we are hoping that by the time we start with the trial, all the list of possible state witnesses will be made available, because we are well aware that those are the people that are going to assist us in proving our case beyond reasonable doubt.
So there is a possibility that there are some accused who have turned state witness at this point?
No, not at the moment. Like I'm saying to you, I don't even know who's going to be state witnesses. So we only get to know once we have finalized the investigations.
Yeah. And in terms of the other co-accused, is the state not planning to oppose bail there?
Well, in the instance, as you are aware, that we requested a postponement till the 3rd and the 4th of May. The reason being that there is going to be a bail application. It's obvious that the state is going to oppose their release on bail.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Shipping. All right, that's the NPA spokesperson, Mr. Shipping, here in the Free State. To my right, I do notice that Mr. Sekeleni's family, his daughter, I understand some other relatives are at court, and one would assume that they are trying to organize bail at this point. I'm going to ask Tebogo, though, because they are a bit shy. The family is a bit shy. I'm going to ask him to just quickly show you their visual to say that, look, the family is here. They were in court. They are looking to organize at least 10,000 rand for Mr. Zolile Sekeleni to be able to be released on bail, perhaps latest by this afternoon. Tebogo and I will then make our way to the other side of the courthouse to try and see if we won't catch the convoy leaving in that direction. But it does seem as though that there's an effort on the part of law enforcement to try and confuse us in terms of where they're going to leave from. But from what we understand is that it does seem as though the convoy is facing in the direction in which my colleague Moloto Moloko is stationed.
So I'm assuming, Slee, that they would rather not speak to you at the moment. That is the Sekeleni family. They would rather not speak to you while they try and find a way to pay that 10,000 rand. But of course, you already spoke to Nandipha Magudumana's father, Uzolile Sekeleni. Just remind us what he said again. He said he didn't know about the relationship between his daughter and Bester, yet he's being accused of being the one who transported the body to Mangaung prison.
Certainly some interesting developments that have taken place since that conversation with Zolile Sekeleni about 4 weeks ago now, where he told me in a telephonic conversation that to quote him, he said he knew everything that was happening in Johannesburg. He was worried about his daughter, but that he didn't know that she was involved with Thabo Bester. That was the last thing he said to me, that no, he was not aware of that relationship. So it's quite peculiar to see him then 4 weeks later in the dock along with his daughter, being accused of being, in fact, one of the masterminds behind that escape.
Well, Slee, I guess maybe you're just going to wait that side while Moloko waits on the other side so that we can try and catch a glimpse of her making her way back to Kroonstad. Let's try and take you back to Moloko. I'm watching the screen. That's why you're not seeing me look into camera, because just like you at home, I'm very interested to see what is going to happen in that particular magistrate's court today. Moloko, let me come to you. Any movement yet? Slee says it looks like law enforcement is trying to fool us in terms of what will actually happen in terms of transporting her away from there.
Well, Masero, I think they obviously may try to utilize any of the available vehicles here to whisk her out of the court premises. But as it stands, we have managed to man, if you like, the two main entrances for the vehicles. And I know that on the other side, right in the front of the magistrate's court, there are also people there, but it's very unlikely that she would, or any of the other accused, would be made to walk into the streets. And just behind me, I'm sure you can see the convoy here and the police as well as the guards that are on standby. But there are onlookers here, Masero, outside court, people who seemingly are just fascinated by what's happening here. And I'm joined now by Aya Bulela. He is one of the few people who have come out. Aya, thank you so much for making time. Your city, Mangaung, today or even in the past days, has been a hive of activity. Just maybe share with us what you make of this as residents of Mangaung.
We're very fascinated with the case because it's unlike anything we've ever heard of or experienced in our whole lives. So I find it very fascinating that someone that comes from such a great background with her career and her life would end up doing something so scary.
You say it's scary, and the fact that the man who was behind this whole thing, Thabo Bester, managed to spend months outside after he succeeded to escape from prison here in Mangaung. When you look back at the fact that possibly he could have inflicted more harm and danger towards other people, what goes through your mind?
It's terrifying that people were not aware that this man was out, and I feel like it's very careless of the police and the government as a whole that they would let someone like that even escape and then not warn us so we can be on the lookout. It's very scary for people that he could have victimized.
Yeah. Dr. Nandipha is a medical practitioner, and there are a lot of people who have been saying, you know, feeling pity for her, and others saying she's been very central to this. From your point of view, as you also alluded to the fact that she's a professional, where do you stand as far as her involvement is concerned?
I'm very fascinated with the story, but I think that she needs to be punished. I feel like there's no way we can feel sympathy for people who take part in such heinous crimes. And the fact that she's a doctor doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of doctors. Doctors are not above the law. What she did was wrong. I mean, she was stealing dead bodies. Who does that? So I think she needs to be punished. And the only sad part is the part of her daughters. She does have 2 kids. So I feel bad for them. But besides that, she needs to go down.
Ayabonga, one of the Lucas here. I'm just going to ask you to step out of shot because I see there's a bit of a movement there. Marcelo, the police are now on standby, kind of hoping that any time from now they will be driving out. But I think a very important point that he makes, Marcelo, that no one is above the law. And if you look at how this whole episode has unfolded, the professionalism behind it, I mean, if you look at the fact that the prison itself is a facility that's highly fortified. It's simply not easy for anyone to escape from there without the assistance of the people who work there. The fact that people who are working there are now standing in the dock alongside the other accused is testament to the fact that there seemed to be a deep problem within our correctional services system. I see these 2 gentlemen are approaching the exit gate, the 2 police vans following them, and the 3rd one as well is following them. It would appear that when they get out of here, they will possibly turn to the left. But my worry is that the road is a bit narrow. Some of the particularly bigger cars may not be able. I'm just going to ask my colleague, Usbia, to come and join me here so that we can be on a handheld as they are now seemingly driving out. Heavily armed, that gentleman there, I'm not too sure if he's a policeman or he's a guard, but he's heavily armed. An indication that they are leaving nothing to chance here. At this point in time, Marcelo, I'm not too sure whether the 3 who remain in custody until their next appearance when they are expected to apply for bail, whether they are all in this convoy. We know now that Dr. Magudumana is being held at a prison for females in Kroonstad, 200 kilometers away from here. Not too sure where the other 2 gentlemen will be spending time until their appearance back here in May. The father, of course, has been granted a 10,000 rand bail, and he's been told not to take a chance and interfere or contact directly or indirectly any of the witnesses. And they seem to be on their way out. As matters stand, in the 2 vans with canopy that are out, I haven't seen anyone in there. My assumption is that they are in another car, and they seem to be all out, Marcelo. The possibility is there that we could be standing here and only to find that they are all gone. Yeah, there they go. There they go, and they are all gone.
It's amazing.
They are gone, Masero, but of course some of them are still left in here.
And I wonder exactly who is still left in there, because my understanding, Moloko, is that it's only Dr. Nandipha Magudumana who is going to Kroonstad. I'm not exactly sure where the other two accused are being held. Is it that Mangaung private prison where the actual escape happened? Do you remember, for instance, the vehicle that Magudumana was being transported in, and has that vehicle left?
Surprising if they were to take any of this accused to the Mangaung Correctional Services, because there's no more trust as far as that particular facility is concerned. But also remember, the other accused were employees at that particular facility. Now, it already will tell you that the colleagues, the people that he worked with, it would not be ideal. The fact that nobody trusts that particular facility anymore, I doubt they would be taken back there. Of course, there would be other prison facilities across the Free State province where they can be taken to.
And Moloko, I'm just looking at that T-Rock that just made its way, out of the, how Twitter is, Moloko. In a story like this, you have investigators, and this is in inverted commas on Twitter, where they were showing one of the accused, I think it's accused number 1, the G4S employee, having bought a T-Rock suddenly, and it looked like his wife was taking a video of him arriving in the car, brand new VW T-Rock, and a lot of people thinking this is when life changed for this man, when suddenly he had the money to be able to buy a vehicle that expensive in cash.
Oh yes, Marcelo, there's a saying that new money makes the loudest noise. It is very difficult, seemingly, for people who would have gotten the loot to hide it, because one would assume that they would be having money they never had before, and they would be all about soft life. And it wasn't surprising that that gentleman, I also saw that particular tweet where he was celebrating the new car. And of course, allegations are that millions of rand were issued or paid to people to facilitate his escape. And that's not surprising. I mean, for people to even go to an extent of even making sure that they sneak dead bodies into a prison facility just to fake the death of somebody, only people who have had their hands greased would be willing to even sacrifice their careers, because now some of them are out of their jobs. No one is going to be touching them for as long as they are eligible to work. So that on its own says that people were possibly compromised. Not only individuals, the entire system was certainly compromised. This, of course, was not the first escape in our prisons, but the fact that this one did not necessarily escape was certainly assisted to escape. I mean, if you listened to the parliamentary session over the past those 2 days, that parliamentarians were asking very difficult questions. At some point, they indicated that they found out during their oversight visit to that facility that I think a day or two before this man escaped, there was an unauthorized visitor who visited Thabo Bester, and nobody knows who that person is. And the fact that, as you might have seen over the weekend reports, that Thabo Bester, even when he was still incarcerated, was allowed to spend time at hotels around here in Bloemfontein with Dr. Nandipha. And just that on its own says that this is a movie-making material. Unfortunately, it is true. This is the reality, compromising the system, the entire correctional services system. And I wonder whether there would be lessons out of this, Masero. But remember, in 2013, the former Minister of Correctional Services, Busiso Ndebele, when he was before Parliament, said that the privatization of correctional services has failed. Already 10 years on, not much has happened. The two privately run prisons in South Africa, this one in Mangaung, where Thabo Bester escaped from, and the other one in Louis Trichardt in Limpopo province, Hakutamas in Tumule, they are still run by these private companies. And as I was just going through the media reports, they were indicating that actually specifically the statement that was issued by Dennis Bloom, a member of Congress of the People, who is saying that when he was a member of the Correctional Services Portfolio Committee, when he was still a member of Parliament, he raised some of these issues to say it is wrong to privatize correctional services. And he says they were told that they are being anti-revolutionary, and they were told that this public partnership where the private sector would build this prisons and bill the state, because the state has paid multi-billions of rent. According to Bloom, they were told that this is part of black economic empowerment. So it goes without saying that some of the politically connected people have certainly benefited immensely from this mess that we find ourselves in.
Quite a movie, you're quite correct. This checks all the boxes in terms of a movie that can be made in a documentary. Moloto Moloko live for us on the other side of the Mangaung Magistrates Court at 12 o'clock, when all angles continues. We'll, of course, continue to give you more coverage, because I'm hearing from senior reporter Lindelo Masigani that, in fact, the fortuner that brought Dr. Magudumana to the Magistrates Court in Bloemfontein from Kroonstad is still there, where she is standing or situated. So we'll try and go back there and get more information. Amazing how life is. You can be a doctor, respectable in the community, interviewed all over in the media, celebrated as a female doctor, and now today you're just surrounded by armed guards and you're shackled both on your hands and on your feet.